Shalom, welcome back, friends, to another episode of Rabbi in the Hot Seat. My name is Rabbi Dov Ber Cohen, speaking to you from Jerusalem. I grew up in England, not a religious home, but a very strong Jewish identity. Studied philosophy at Manchester University, lived in Asia for 6 years doing martial arts and Buddhism and Eastern practices, came to Israel, found out the depth and the beauty and the truth of Torah. Ask all your questions, anything that's on your mind. Let's go.
Sarah asks, how as Jews are we supposed to conceptualize God?
Very good question. Our conception of God is actually emotional rather than visual, because obviously God doesn't have any physical form. So we're told to think of God as a father and a king. What does that mean? A father is someone that you feel very secure and loved and connected to and held and joyful around. And a king is someone that you're meant to feel reverence for and respect for and wonder and awe. So really in Jewish thought it's called ahava and yira, which means love and respect. So we conceptualize God as this great king, not physically, not with a vision, but in an emotional way. Therefore, our relationship is based on this emotional experience rather than any type of visual form.
Shai asks, does the Torah accept the belief of the Lubavitcher Rebbe as Mashiach?
Torah Judaism believes that in every single generation there is a person who has the ability to be Mashiach, and many people think that the Lubavitcher Rebbe was a huge enough tzaddik to have been the Mashiach of that generation. However, once he passed away in physical form, it means he didn't fulfill the role as the Mashiach. The Mashiach has to bring world peace and build the temple, the third temple, and Menachem Mendel Schneerson didn't achieve those things, but he was definitely a huge, amazing, incredible tzaddik who loved the Jewish people and left us with immense, great Torah learning, and this movement of Chabad, which is really trying to inspire Jews to do mitzvahs and connect to Torah and Hashem in a great way.
I'm a Jew and I'm thinking about moving to Israel. What questions should I ask myself first?
First question is, are you very deeply idealistic? Do you really want to be here because you believe in the Jewish people and that this is our indigenous land? Because financially it can be a little bit difficult here. Culturally it can be a little bit difficult here. So as maybe an American, I'm assuming, you're going to come across very many difficulties and challenges being here. However, if you're very idealistic and you're saying there's nowhere else I'd rather be, then you'll overcome those challenges. Me personally, I lived in Japan because I wanted to learn Aikido, and I lived in Thailand because I wanted to do kickboxing, and I lived in Korea because I wanted to do taekwondo, and I lived in India because I wanted to do yoga. So as a Jew, once I realized I really want to live as a Jew, there was no other place in the world I'd want to be than Israel. Israel's the only place that you can really do mitzvahs properly, in the place where they're meant to be. There are many mitzvahs that only you can do in Israel. The Gemara even says that someone who lives outside of Israel, ki'ilu ein lo elokah, as if he doesn't have a God. Obviously he does have a God. God's everywhere in the world, but Israel's definitely the center of holiness and Jewish connection in the world. So I was so passionate about being in Israel that I remember saying I'd rather sleep on a park bench in Jerusalem than live in a mansion in America or England or anywhere else in the world. So you've got to be very, very deeply idealistic to make it work. I know lots of people who say, I'm going to come to Israel and just see how it goes, see if I can make it. And many of those people end up going home because it's not that easy to make it here. Other people who say, I'm here, doesn't matter what, this is where I'm here, I find that in the end they actually make it work out. And we believe, spiritually speaking, Hashem says, okay, if you're committed to be in the land, I'm going to help you be here. But remember, you might not be as materially wealthy as you might be in America or in England. But for me, spiritual connection is much more important than material wealth. So I'm willing to give up my material wealth for deeper spiritual connection. Having said that, if you do live in America and you want to live a Jewish life, I heard the Jewish school is about $40,000 a year. So if you only have 3 children, then that's $120,000 a year. You're going to be chasing money. I don't think it's financially more easy there. So what's your idealistic value, material or spiritual? And then please come home. We actually need all the Jews to finally come home to our indigenous homeland and build the temple and bring peace to our nation and to the whole world.
I'm a recent Baal Tshuva and I work at a very prestigious law firm. How do I balance my moral beliefs with my work ethics?
That's a very big challenge that people have had throughout the generations. Remember, lots of people got out of Europe and made it to America, and they'd get a new job every week. They go to work, and then they said, if you don't come to work on Saturday, you're going to lose your job. And many people lost their job because they said, look, I've got a value. My value is Torah, and the Torah says I can't do it. So I'd rather give up my wealth in order to live up to my values. So we know in life in general, we have our core principles and our core values that cannot be compromised. If there's any compromise, of course, we're going to try and compromise, but sometimes we just can't. So if your company cannot accept the fact that you're going to be away from work for this much time, it's probably not the right place for you to be, and you could probably sue them for religious discrimination.
That's great.
How do I deal with a Jewish matchmaker who calls me picky?
Firstly, I think you could say to them in a very nice way, the person I marry is very, very important, so I have to be picky. I don't want to just pick up any person off the street. Now, I don't know if you're a man or a woman asking this question, but it goes for both. Really, I think it's very important to have the right person and not just settle for something second best. Having said that, if a matchmaker who has your best interests in heart and has been doing this for a long time says you're being a bit picky, maybe you should look at yourself a little bit and ask yourself, am I going for perfection? And understand that there is no such thing as a perfect person. There is no such thing as a perfect relationship. So in general in life, when someone gives you feedback, even if you think it's negative and critical, you can ask yourself, is there any truth in this feedback? And in what way could I improve myself and adjust myself? Because maybe, just maybe, you are a little over picky. And that is actually preventing you from getting married. So it's both. Firstly, say, no, I have my ideal. I have what I feel I deserve, so I'm not going to settle for less. But yes, maybe I should loosen up in some areas. Once again, that means, what are my core values? There are values that I am not prepared to compromise on. And maybe there are values, maybe they'll be a little bit less good looking than I'm hoping for, or a little bit less healthy, whatever it is. But you've got to start asking yourself, maybe there are little areas that I have to tweak in order to open myself up to a wider range of people that I can meet, and focus always on their good points and not be so focused on picking all little things out of bad points out of people, which is why marriages often fail, because often when we're dating, we focus on the good. And then the little annoying things, we kind of ignore them and we say it's okay because it's so exciting. And then people get married and they flip the focus and they start saying, I don't like how they chew and this is a bit annoying. So we know that love and the sustaining of a positive relationship is focus on the good in the other person and overlook the bad. But if there's bad that you just can't overlook, you just can't let go of that, then that's not the person you need to be with. But you have to be maybe a little bit more relaxed in your goals. Someone actually gave me a whole list once. This is what I want in my wife. And it was like 20 things. And I said, that's about 8 different people there. That's never going to happen. So you just got to choose your core things. What's important to me. We share the same values. We communicate very well. They're very kind and loving and invested in me. They're willing to work on themselves in the relationship. And we have physical and chemical attraction. And then it shouldn't take too much to make it work.
What kind of effort do I need to put in when searching for a spouse?
First effort is actually to work on yourself. Are you yourself an emotionally healthy human being? Do you have a very healthy sense of self? Because if you don't have a healthy sense of self, you're not going to get into a good relationship. So the very beginning of effort towards having a good marriage is that you're a healthy person. And to be a good parent, are you a healthy person with self-worth? So that's the first effort you need to put in. But then, as I said in the previous answer, your values. What are my values? What's important to me? And the third major thing is, are you willing to put someone else's needs over your own needs? Are you willing to be a giver? Because the essence of love is giving. The essence of lust is taking. What's in it for me? Most people, when they get into a marriage, is all about what's in it for me. What can I get? I've got my physical needs and my emotional needs and my mental needs and my spiritual needs. How can this person fulfill my needs? So I'm giving you a complete opposite answer to what you thought I was going to give you, which was, I've got to make sure that I'm going to the right person and getting the right thing. It's all about yourself. Have you developed yourself into a refined, conscious human being who is willing to be in a relationship and give to someone else? That's the main effort you can put in to getting ready to get married.
Molly asks, how can I see the beauty of Shabbat?
Hi, Molly. Thank you for asking that question. The beauty of Shabbat, for me, is complete presence. Being present in the moment and present with the people around you, because all through the week we are completely distracted the whole time, and we got notifications and we got responsibilities and we got obligations and we're accomplishing things and we're achieving things and we're running around. So if you could just appreciate that for most people their life is just kind of a whirlwind treading water, just trying to stay afloat, then of course you'd appreciate the beauty of Shabbat, which is just let's be present. There's no phones, there's no screens to take me away from being present. There's no money, there's no shopping, Now it's difficult for us because most people, that's what we're involved in all the time. We're involved in money and shopping and work and screens. So Shabbat is challenging for many people because they don't get to do the things that help them distract themselves. But if you can actually see the immense importance for your mental state and your emotional state, and even more importantly for your spiritual connection, then you start looking forward to that quiet time when you can disconnect from the outside world and the ego and the obligations in the workplace and just become truly present with yourself and the people you love. Okay, thank you so much. That was another episode. Nothing that controversial this episode, which was actually quite nice. We spoke a little bit about moving to Israel and your values. I think, you know what? The subject of this episode was really your values. What are your values? What's important to you? How does that look like when you're dating? How does that look like when you're choosing to move to Israel? And that was a very important episode. Remember, your values really say a lot about who you are. And living up to your values, that's how you achieve greatness and self-worth in life. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Notifications, like, share, write your comments. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.